By the end of this tutorial, you will have a UI just like this one, which uses a single child scroll view to display a long scrollable list like this one, or a short list like this one that is not long enough to be scrollable. Let's code this from scratch. We start with the default code of a new Flutter project. We will go ahead and change the title of the project, remove the comments in the code, and remove some of the code so that we remain with only a blank scaffold. Next, we will create a new folder in this project called images, where we're going to put the image that we are going to use as the background of our homepage. We will open up this folder in the File Explorer, copy the image we need from our selection of images and paste it in this new folder. Next, we will go to our pubspec.yaml file and scroll down to the assets section. We will uncomment this code and remove the extra text so that we remain with a line that points to the images folder. Let's close this terminal and go to our main.dat file to start writing our code. First, we will create two variables, the first being a string which we will call selected game pack, and the second being a string which we will call selected time. Let's close this Explorer window so that we can see our code nicely. Next, we will create a list of game pack options, which will be a list of strings that are the names of 10 of the most popular game packs in Kenya. Next, we will create a list of time slots, which are 6 a.m., 9 a.m., 3 p.m., and 6 p.m. Let's now move on to the main layout of the app, where we are going to add the body property of the scaffold, and inside this body property, we are going to put a stack. The first child of this stack will be our background image, and here we will have a sized box whose height will be the screen height, and the child will be an image.asset, and it will show the image that we added to the images folder, and we shall assign a fit property to make sure that it fills up the sized box. The second child of this stack will be our foreground content section, where we will have a centered column. At the top of this column, we will have our title section, where we'll have a container with a symmetric vertical padding of 30, and the child of this container will be a text widget that says book your game drive with a text style to increase its font size and font weight and set its color to white. Next, we will have the game pack selection section, where we'll have a container with a symmetric vertical padding of 10, and the child of this container will be an elevated button. We will add a button style to it, where we will set the background color to white, the foreground color to black, and a rounded rectangle border as its shape. The onPressed property will be a blank function for now, and its child will be a text widget that says choose a game pack with a text style to increase its font weight. Next, we move on to the time selection section, where we will have a container whose child will be an elevated button. We will add a button style to set its background color to white, its foreground color to black, and add a rounded rectangle border as its shape. The onPressed property will be a blank function for now, and its child will be a text widget that says choose a time with a text style to increase its font weight. Next, we move on to the summary section, where we will start with a sized box for spacing, then a text widget that says summary with a text style to increase its font size and font weight and set its color to white, then a sized box for spacing, then a text widget that says game pack with a text style to set its color to white, then a sized box for spacing, then a text widget whose text is the selected game pack, then a sized box for spacing, then a text widget that says time with a text style to set its color to white, then a sized box for spacing, and finally a text widget whose text is the selected time. Next, we will create our custom class for showing our lists of options, and we will call it choice list, and this is the class that will actually make use of the single child scroll view. This class will have two required arguments. The first will be a list we will call options, and the second will be a function we will call selection function. In the build method of this class, we will return a single child scroll view, and the child of this single child scroll view will be a card whose child will be a column. Inside this column, we are going to use a for loop to return an inkwell for each item in our options list. Its ontap property will be a function that calls the selection function and passes in the item. Its child will be a container with an all-round padding of 15 pixels, and the child of this container will be a text widget that displays the value of the item. Let's save this for formatting. Next, we are going to create the function for updating the selected game pack inside the my homepage state class. We shall call this function update selected game pack. It will return a void, and it will take a string argument we shall call choice. Inside this function, we're going to use a setState function to set the selected game pack to our choice, and then pop the alert dialog on which our list of options will be displayed. Next, we will create a function for updating our selected time. We will call it update selected time. It will return void and it will take a string argument we shall call choice. Inside this function, we will use a setState function to set our selected time to our choice and then pop the alert dialog on which our time options will be displayed. Next, we will move on to creating our function for showing game pack options, which will return a void, and we shall call this function show game pack options. Inside this function, we will use a show dialog function to return an alert dialog. The content of this alert dialog will be an instance of our choice list class where we will pass our game packs list as our options argument and our update selected game pack function as our selection function argument. Let's save this for formatting. Next, we will create a function for showing time options, which will return void, and we shall call this function show time options. Inside this function, we will use a show dialog function to return an alert dialog. The content of this alert dialog will be an instance of our choice list class where we will pass in the time slots list as our options argument and our update selected time function as our selection function argument. The last thing we need to do is call our show game pack options function inside our button for choosing a game pack, then call our show time options function inside our button for choosing a time. And we are done writing our code. Let's run this app to see what it looks like. And our app has now been built. When we click on this button for choosing a game pack, we can see that our long list of game pack options can be scrolled through because of the SingleChildScrollView widget. And when we click on this button to choose a time, we can see that our shorter list of time options displays just fine. And that's how you use the SingleChildScrollView in Flutter. If you have enjoyed this video and found value in it, be sure to give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who might find it useful as well. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel with the notifications turned on so that you get notified each time I upload a new video.